remember to put the microphone on before I push live stream. Um, this is a more difficult one, and it's one that I've struggled with because I don't fully. Let me wait till I have that microphone attached. All right. It should be visible. The light showing through. Okay. So in this one, I'm going to talk about why black men abandon their families. I'm Maurian, and black men don't exist, but nobody knows what a Maurian is except for me and very few people who do deep research. Anyway, so why do black men abandon their families? Like I said, I'm Maurian. I had a dad growing up, still have a dad. He's been in my life and a very, very important part of my life. Post-divorce and all of that jazz with my mom. They divorced when I was in college, so my dad was always around. He worked really hard, and I followed his example. You know, work really hard, mama knows best, happy wife, happy life. Sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. Keep all your pain and suffering to yourself. You tell the woman about it, she'll beat the shit out of you, and then you'll go out into the world and prefer to just keep it to yourself and just keep pushing it down and deal with it and swallow it, and your health and all your mental goes away. That's the example that I saw. My dad work really hard. He really put in for us, and our mom was actually relatively good about being a wife and a mother to a great extent in some areas. I know because I'm comparing her to my ex, and she was like leaps and bounds ahead of my ex as far as that's concerned, like light years ahead of my ex. But in some areas, she also gave me a very poor example of what a woman is in relation to a man. And my dad had to learn self-love. He had to learn a lot of things, and she was very supportive of him and made sure we respected him and his authority as a father, as a man in the home. So I was very lucky to have that example. I was also lucky to have an example of having both of my grandfathers. They were not active in my life. You know, they were married to my grandmothers, and they were just great men. So, you know, it's part of Maurian culture for men to just be the way they are, and black men kind of take that from us. Because they came from us. Black men are just a fake version of us, made up by Christianity and American society and all that stuff. But, you know, as this awakening happens and we move into a golden age, black men will remember who they are, and they will love themselves and really understand what it is to be a father and to be a man in the house. One of the things that, it's a meme, like black men abandon their kids, black kids grow up without dads, and it's funny and it's true to a great extent. It's tragic for some people because there's trauma around that for them. Trauma, which is a stupid bullshit word, because what the fuck is trauma? Being shot in the head and stabbed in the gut. That's trauma, not feeling bad about your life. But, you know, everybody's trauma is everybody has their own version of trauma, and I get it. But you can't show up in the emergency room and say, my daddy left me, unless you're like a little 2-year-old or something. Anyway, but so why do black men abandon their families? First and foremost, they take cues from us Maurians. Maurian men, and I grew up with my father. I'm still very close to my father. I grew up with both my grandfathers. They were very much involved in all of my uncles and aunts and all their lives. So, you know, I come from a very long lineage of men being there and being a part of the family. But that's Maurian culture. The thing is, how Maurian's father is very different than the way that like Christian and Jesus loves you too, Deion Wilson. Hey, what does Santa pay for? I don't fucking know. Nothing. It's on the house. That's a good one. Good one. Very good one. Insight 99. Yeah, but Maurian men, I was fortunate to have Maurian father and grandfathers and very strong men. My uncles, they all married forever and raised their kids and all this stuff, you know. And so the idea of fatherlessness was not something I ever really knew or even observed. It was later on when I started interacting with more black culture and things like that, I started to see more of that. I saw, when I married my ex, I saw more fatherlessness in her world. There's more matriarchal there. But anyway, so why do black men abandon their kids and their wives and their women and all that kind of stuff? Um, it stems from Maurians. Like, okay, so Maurian men tended to be explorers. We go out, we do things, and so we would, the whole idea of a harem, that's like part of the Middle Eastern world, but that actually goes back further, where men would have like, it would be one guy and he had like 20 women that he had either fathered their children, or they were working in the house, or they were his wives or something. That's kind of a Maurian cultural thing. And so black men have that like explorative, masculine, go out there and get it spirit, but their culture and their community is like gyno, it's like gyno based. It's feminine. It's a lot of like women and strong women kind of ruling the house, like being raised by women, that sort of thing. And so like that masculine desire to go out in the world and to create and explore and express and conquer is in men, right? And black men have that. They got it through their Maurian source, like us. And so they have that. And then they're in a world where it's like feminine, and they've been taught to like, they've kind of been beat down by women and stuff like that, and that sort of a community. And so when they grow up and they get into a marriage, they're more manly. They have to work, they have to, provide, they have to do all that stuff, and they want to do those things. But then they keep finding themselves like kind of run into that brick wall of that gynocentric, I'm going to rule over you and you're going to do as I say. Well, that works for a little boy, but it doesn't work for a man. It never has and never will. And so these men, they have they have options. They can stay and be destroyed and crushed by that, or they can leave. And the majority of them are intelligent enough to leave, um, rather than stay and then be crushed or become violent, or create more trauma in their like actual trauma in their family lives. Historically, this was not the case, because in my grandfather's generation, men got to be men. Men could go out and do the things they needed to do as men and just be men. You came home, the woman was like admired you and looked up to you and was like, "Hey, this is the guy," and the kids, you look up to dad. He's great. But that started to die out about 100 years ago. 60 years ago, 60 or 70 years ago, with that whole government replacing the father thing, which you probably have all heard about. So that's one of the main reasons. Part of it is that there's been a cultural imperative to remove black fathers from homes. There's that. That's not the white man. That's just kind of the social structure. It has nothing to do with white people. And the other part is just that historically, Maurian men were never really in the home. A lot of us come from cultures where it was just like my father and my grandfathers were inundated in Western culture, so that's what their lens was, this culture, and so they were like, work really hard. One of my grandfathers was in the Air Force and traveled around the world. They lived in Germany, all that kind of stuff. That was just their their lens. Hello, Ivan Damjevic, whatever. um, yeah. So, and hi, Anna Lopez. Oh, very nice, Anna Lopez, so cute. I'm sorry, I didn't say hi to you earlier. You probably already left. But yeah, a lot of like my father, grandfathers, those would be, they all grew up in like a Western frame, and so they said, okay, well, this is what I have to do to be a man, and there was more room for them to be a man back then. And so anyway, that Maurian aspect of like going out and conquering, and the women being at home, or the women being part of their world and men not mingling with that, that's just part of our culture too. It's like men and women are separate. And so when you put these two people together in one spot and you force them to be in the same room all the time, it can be pretty difficult to deal with. And so there is that. And so I guess that's the best way to describe it. And the other thing is that I think a lot of the black families don't deserve a father, because they have too strong of a black mother who's kind of running the show and saying, "Hey, I'm the head of the household," and then the guy's just like, "Well, why the fuck am I here?" And so you have that. That's the best I can explain from an outsider's point of view. I didn't grow up with that. I did marry a woman with some of those qualities, and I can kind of empathize with black men dealing with women like that, because those sorts of women, um, they use the system, they use law enforcement, they use all these things to kind of remove you from the space, and your wisdom, your time, your love, your all that stuff is just not really appreciated or honored or valued. And so it's like, do I stay here and continue to be a part of the sadomasochistic cycle, or do I move on and try again and start anew? And I think that, it taps into an ancestral thing. My ancestors were men that moved about, and again, they did not live with women. The idea of a man living directly in contact with a woman like every day is just like, what? Why the fuck would you do that to yourself? Women are so amazing and beautiful. Okay, this is myth, right? This is myth of how women and men were created. And I'll share this on this, and it goes like this. And don't look it up. It says, God made man kind of utility like a workhorse. He made him strong. He made him resilient. He made him able to be out in nature all the time, sleep under the stars, work under the sun. He made man very resilient and strong and sturdy. And then he was like, I'm going to make another human, and it's going to be more like the opposite. It's going to be soft, and it's going to be sweet smelling, and it's going to be beautiful and so delicious, and just like delicious to look at. And so God made the woman, and she smelled good, and she was beautiful, and she was so sweet and so awesome, just like. And then God noticed that the men stopped worshiping God because the woman was so beautiful. She was like an angel on earth. She smelled amazing. She was soft and sweet and amazing and beautiful, and she was just so perfect. And God was like, man, okay, I've got to do something about this, because now men are worshiping the women. They're not worshiping me. And so God went back down and said, I made women too perfect. So now I'm going to make them a little bit like men. I'm going to make them a little stinky. I'm going to and I'm going to make them hairy too, and I'm going to make them like a little bit like men. And then he was like, well, but if they're too much like men, they'll relate to each other too much. And so he added this one thing to women that made it possible for them to be in the world with men, and men and women could worship God together. And what he added to women was nagging. And so as a result of women's innate desire to nag the shit out of men, that allowed men and women to live on the earth, and men would still pray to God and worship God, and humanity would be righteous. And so that's a little myth. Clearly, I offended everybody with that myth. Yay. But I thought it was funny. Anyway, so yeah, women, like, there are a lot of cultures, like Maurian type cultures, or at least that are where it's like men and women aren't supposed to live together, because men have to be really resilient. The environments where we grow up, I didn't grow up in those environments, but I'm saying our ancestors came from, like, those environments are very rough. There's a lot of megafauna. Like, you think of the African, sub-Saharan African areas, right? It's like a lot of megafauna. It's not really safe. And you think about all of the equatorial regions. Those are really rough regions to live in. And not really rough, but they can be tamed. But you as a human have to be really resilient, and a very clear delineation between male and female, man and woman, is important in those cultures. And so my ancestors are those sorts of people. They distinguish like men and women. There was no like, oh, I don't know if I'm a man or woman, or yeah, that just shit didn't happen. It was none of that. And so there's a very strong delineation, and as a result, men didn't really live with women. And so now you have, many centuries, generations later, look, in the early 20th century, 18th century, like, the so-called blacks or African Americans, like, a lot of those men they're Maurians, but they were, men were doing their own thing. They were working all day. They were busy. They were not trying to be all caught up in woman's face. Like, they were doing their own thing, living their own life, working in the field, or working with their buddies, and then drinking at night, and every once in a while having a mistress. It's like the ideal life of a man. this whole idea of monogamy, it was only monogamy for building your gene pool, but it wasn't monogamy in the sense of like, I'm not going to ever have sex with anybody else. It was like, yeah, we call this monogamy, but I have like 5 mistresses. I have a wife and I have children and they're legitimate and I will stay with them. I will raise them. But you know who my wife is? My wife is the woman that respects my authority, that loves me and incorporates that authority into the kids. She indoctrinates my children with my authority as a man. That's the woman I marry. But I'm gonna sleep with all these Jane, Sally, Mary, Sue. But at one, I'm not gonna have any kids with them. And if they do have kids, or they're not my kids, those are bastards. And that's historically the way it was up until my grandfather's generation. And then after that was like the women's lib, and obviously women's lib is really old. It's like 130 years old, but the women's lib really took over in like the 60s or whatever, and that shit started to get tamped down. It was changed. So men weren't, the men were not in the home as much because they were like, women were like, the women who the men were committing themselves to were now acting like the women that the men were just fucking on the side, and so the side pieces like became the woman you were living. You don't want to live with a whore in your house. You love all men, at least at this time and in certain go like all men love whores. Like we love them. We want to protect them. We want to make sure they have pretty decent life, but we don't want to pay for their kids. We don't want to do any of that because they're not our woman. They're not our wives. They're not like the wife is the one who helps you build the empire. She's not your equal. She's like, you're the right hand, she's the left hand. There's no equality in this. It's not about equality. It's like the man is the right hand, the woman is the left hand. Right and left hand they're not equal. They're just two parts of the same body. There's no like, oh, my left eye and right eye and left eye are equal. No, they're not equal. They're the same. They're part of the same body. So your wife is that. She's your empire builder. She's your partner. And she helps you with those kids in the sense that those children look up to her because she's like God to them. And then she defers her divine power to you as the man, as the husband, as the father, and says, children, obey your father, respect your father. And the way the man returns it, he comes home, oh, the kids were acting up today. All right, well, I got to beat their ass, or, beat them, or spank them, or talk to them stern. Mostly just talk to them stern and say, listen, you need to listen to your mom, blah, 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 blah. And make sure they obey her and respect her authority as a woman in the house. And so that's kind of how Maurian structures were. And you always would have a little side piece or 5 side pieces or whatever, however much you could maintain. But that was never, the children of that side piece were never the recipients of your wealth, the recipients of your power as a father. Hello, Jordan, Gerald Morgan. And hello, Ivan. Oh, I said hi, Ivan. So, like, you never, as a man, would be like, would have to like really, really lay in on your kids because mom's job was to make sure they understood your authority. And you always picked the woman who got it. You always picked the woman who was on the program. And Maurian men did that up until my grandfather's generation. You'll notice up to my grandfather's generation, the so-called black men that didn't exist before my grandfather's generation. But those guys, they were in the home. They were, working hard, building the community, supporting each other, because they knew how to select a woman that wasn't a whore as a wife. Whores are important. We need them in society. And prostitution is a very important thing as long as those people are being treated with respect. They have health care, they have education, they have protection from law enforcement. Like, I think all that stuff is important. Whores, all that like is important in society. It helps, it's the glue that holds society together. All of society is supposed to make sure that children grow up healthy and happy. And if daddy's not in the home, or he's beating the shit out of mom, or mom is whatever, beating the shit out of him or whatever, that's not healthy for the kids. If dad has got a mistress or two that takes some of that energy out of him, he comes home, he's happy and blissful. Mommy can nag all she wants. He just got his sack emptied. So he's like, yeah, okay. And then she says, they'll talk to the kids. He's not beating them because he's sexually frustrated. He goes up to them and says, hey guys, listen, you need to listen to your mom and I'm not playing. And then he plays with them and has fun with them and they all expend energy. Mommy's happy, daddy's happy, kids are happy. That's how you create a great society, and whores help with that. And so whores are important, and Maurian men respect whores and love whores, and we support them and they're great. But we don't marry them. We don't marry them. We marry women. Whores are fine, but we marry women. We marry women. We support women. We love women. We respect women. And those become our wives. And at some point in my grandfather's generation, that's when black men became invented, because there were Negroes before that and colored people on it. But black men came as a result of whores being mistaken for wives. And then men marrying whores, having children with those whores, and those kids having a whore teaching them how to be a person, an adult or whatever. And see, because a whore is an independent woman. It's a woman that can take care of herself. She can pay for her own shit. She can do her own thing. Whores come from matriarchal cultures. Whores come from that. And it's, I'm using the word whore, but prostitutes, women of the night, witches, sorceresses, all that. They come from matriarchal cultures, women predominant cultures, because women have a very powerful spiritual ability about them. And they deal better in the dark arts. And they've always been better at that. Left-hand path religions have always been women dominated. So Maurian men used to know how to pick a wife, but they started, we started messing up about my grandfather's generation after his, because we started picking women that were whores or witches and stuff like that. And we started marrying them and having kids with them, and that's how the whole black thing came about. This whole black culture and all this stuff came about. And literally, black culture. It's left-hand culture, left-hand path. It's and you notice, like, look at the music, look at the music, look at the culture. Like I mean, the culture centered around sexuality, which is okay, but I'm saying, like, sex as the mode of creation and everything. Sex is the mode of creation, but what I mean is righteousness is not a part of it. Like, righteousness and integrity and virtue are not in it. It's just smashing bodies together and then, releasing in pleasure. That's all it's out. You see like I said, like the music videos and all that other stuff, and the culture. The whole culture is dedicated to that. So that happened around my grandfather's generation. I was lucky because my dad was part of very conservative religious background, and my mom as well. So they upheld that old kind of, like, there's dad and mom, and these are the king and queen of the house. Like, we couldn't even go into my parents' room. We couldn't even go into my parents' room without, like, permission. It was a sacred space. You don't walk into mom and dad's room. But the way that, unfortunately, I made a huge mistake. I went, all my parents are educated, uncles, aunts, they're all, like, high degrees and all that stuff. But I went to a public university and got indoctrinated with this whole feminism stuff, cancer, and I married in that mind frame. And when I did that, my kids were always in the room. As a matter of fact, my ex and I we were not, like, sleeping in the same room for the last 12 years of marriage. I slept either outside or on the couch, or literally outside, like on the porch, or on the couch, or she slept in the living room for a large period of time because I was sleeping in a chair, and I couldn't sleep in a bed for many years. I had health issues, and so there was like that. But I bought into the lies of Western. It was like I bought into a lot of those lies, and that was the demise of the relationship I was in. So that's why I got a divorce. I filed for divorce, but on my personal shit, I don't need to put all that out there. But getting back to it, Maurian men started marrying whores and not marrying women, and that started, like I said, around my grandfather's generation. Maurian men in general. Now, Maurian men in black men in very conservative Christian communities, or who grew up in the upper echelon, like Jack and Jill, that kind of world, they still married women because the females that were brought to them were curated. It's like, wait a second, you don't get to talk to him because you're not good enough. Okay? And so we had that protection, but unfortunately, I clearly didn't have that. So, but that's because I rejected it, and that's all my fault, and I'm not gonna blame anybody but myself for that. And God has forgiven me. I've forgiven myself, and I've moved on. But That's why black men abandon their families. First and foremost, is because black men stopped choosing women as wives, like women as wives. They started choosing whores as wives, and you can never turn a lady of the street into a woman, like a house woman, like an empire building woman. You can't never do that. You can't never do that. Two negatives in a sense. You can never do that. And she should never be that. Whores are so important. They're essential for society. They're good for society. They're valuable for society, but they're not wives. And 2 generations ago, Maurian men forgot that, and that's when they became black. And that's when they started abandoning their children, abandoning their family, and now you have all these memes about black men not raising their kids. And so that's basically how it is. It's all in a nutshell. I mean, I can make like a real video on it and show you like stats and books and data and all that stuff, but I'm not going to do that, because if this makes sense to you, it makes sense to you, and you'll be like, yeah, that fucking makes sense. And if you're a young man and you call yourself black, you call yourself this, maybe change that. African American is no better, because where the fuck in Africa are you from? Unless you actually, if you are from Africa, you're not calling yourself African American. You're calling yourself Nigerian or Ghanaian American or Congolese American or some Liberian American or something. Like you know where you're from. So if you're calling yourself African American, don't do that. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm saying you're not this, and you're not from Africa unless you're from South Africa. And in that case, whatever. Call yourself African American, like Elon Musk. But yeah, if you are a young man and you're black or whatever, and you're like buying into like the feminism stuff and all that stuff, I would say please save yourself. I tried to tell my son this stuff. I think he gets it. But like, I would say just really like, make sure that you got somebody filtering the kind of females that come to you. And also, don't ever think because a woman has sex with you, that matters. Because it doesn't. It's like it doesn't. And just because a woman gives her heart to you doesn't mean anything either. Because women can do that, and they can walk away and just give their heart to somebody else. So I would say that if you're that, so just like, make sure if you're gonna do a long-term thing, make sure it's a woman that you're with, a woman that respects you, a woman that likes you, a woman that loves you, a woman that says, "Hey, look, you matter, and I think you're great." But before all that, make sure you think you're great. Make sure that you think you're awesome. Make sure that you respect yourself, because you can't find a woman in your life or to help you build an empire like a family if you don't love yourself, if you don't respect yourself, if you don't put yourself on the pedestal and see yourself as great. Because no woman is ever responsible for how a man feels about himself. Women can definitely impact that, because women are super powerful, extremely powerful when it comes to the psyche and the sexuality and the spirit. Women dominate that. No man will ever get close to that. But with women, but if you're a man, you've got to love yourself. You got to respect yourself. You have to have a relationship with God, the real God, not the fake bullshit fucking God that they try to sell you in the goddamn churches and the goddamn science and society and on all the channels and all that shit. But the real fucking God, like the God that actually runs the universe, your reality. So you got to have a relationship with that, and when you do that, just love yourself. Make sure that you know your value, and you say, hey, look, I'm not gonna have a fucking whore running my empire. Like, women run empires, not whores. So just be aware of that. Whores are great. Give them money, make them rich. They're independent women. They want to travel to Milan and Ibiza, and they want to spend that money and travel the world and all that stuff. That's good, man. I mean, I think we should support whores all the way. Don't fucking marry them. Don't have kids with them. It's that simple. If you have kids with them, you're going to pay a hefty price, because a whore will drain you of everything. But a wife, a woman, like a woman, man, a real fucking woman, She'll keep you on the straight and narrow, and it's your job to stay on the straight and narrow. But a real woman will like hold you down, because women, again, they have that spiritual, psychological power that men don't have. And men have another type of spiritual power, but women have it, like, for real, for real. And so, yeah. So if you really want to be around, make sure you choose the right kind of woman from day one. Choose a woman. Marry a woman, like a real fucking woman. And you may not find that in the black guys. It's likely you won't find that in the black culture. You'll find that among Maurian women, women that look like they're black, but they're gonna be women that have fathers, and yeah, no doubt, that have fathers, that have strong communities, that love men. Like, you want a woman that loves men, that loves men, that respects men. More than really, because like all women love men to some extent, but you want a woman that respects men. That's the main thing. It's like, does she respect her father? Does she respect the men in her life? Does she respect me? If she doesn't, next, you gotta love yourself enough to do it. Because I'm gonna tell you, man, sex and spirit are the two things that God gave dominion to women. God gave dominion over sex and spirit to women. That's why it's so fucked up that we got all these male pastors. It's important. You're supposed to have male pastors, but like, women need to be in the spiritual discussion too. Like, they need to be deep in there, because women are extremely important to the spiritual experience of humanity. But women have power over spirit, sex, psyche. That's where God gave them dominion there. God gave man dominion over the whole fucking earth. Like, animals, men kill animals smarter than animals. You shouldn't kill animals. But I'm saying, like, if you have to eat them, you have to kill them first. So God gave that dominion to men to be able to, because like, how many women can live in the fucking Alaska wilderness or in the goddamn jungle, other than the jungle women? No, and again, jungle women can't live in the jungle without jungle men. They need, so all I'm saying is, it's a digression, I know, but it's like, I don't even know, I got off on a tangent. So, but as a man, you need a woman by your side. And a couple of whores on the side too, because that men have sexual energy, you got to drain that so you can come home and be there for your wife, you know. You eating people. I'm not eating people, bro. David's son, I'm not eating people. Yeah. Why you eating people? Sorry, I might have slipped and said something funny about it. But anyway, like, women have power over spirit, they have power over sex, they have power over psyche. And God gave them that dominion. But God gave men dominion over the physical world. And it's not like God was like a spirit, the phantom came down and like did magic and now we all got to. No, you just look at the world. Like, how many women toe to toe could fight any man? They're exact same size, same weight, and not a single one on earth. And they say, oh, well, this is the Danica Patrick. Of course, but Danica Patrick goes against Adesanya or whatever, like another MMA person with the same skill, and let's say they're the same weight. The guy's always going to kick the shit out of the woman. Always, 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 always. That's how you know God made that dominion to man. He gave the dominion over the physical world to men. But when it comes to arguments, when it comes to guilt, shame, and all that shit, that's women. You as a man, never to argue with a woman. I learned this shit, man. I learned this shit one last time, and I never will do it again. But it's like, never argue with a woman. And I'm not saying let women say what and do whatever. Just as a man, you can emotionally detach, unless you're a Cancer, like Cancer sign. I know it's astrology, but it makes sense. But like, if you're getting into it with a woman, walk away. Just take a deep breath, walk the fuck away. Because the way that you combat her verbal violence is with physical violence, and the state always takes her side. Police show up, they just go, who has the vagina? Oh, okay, that's the victim. And that's just how they do it. It's just life. Sorry, it is what it is. We were given dominion over the physical world. So women have dominion over the mind, spirit, and soul sort of thing, like sexuality and soul and spirit. God gave them that dominion. So just, you got to respect that and make sure you pick a woman that's going to build your empire, because you built the physical empires. Man, you built the house, you built you bring the money, you do all that stuff. And then the woman comes and she takes her amazing, divine, feminine thing and just like refines it all and does that little beautiful thing that those sweet little beautiful women do. But a woman, You got to choose a woman. Don't choose a whore. Whores are good. We're not going to throw them in the trash. We love whores. But you go to a whore like to get your rocks off, to like just get your energy off. That's where they're there. That's why God created whores. You notice how Jesus was always around whores? And he was so positive with them? Mary Magdalene, fucking whore. A whore, a prostitute, a hoe. I don't know if I get canceled for that. I'm already canceled, so who gives a fuck? Like, she was a whore. I love Mary Magdalene. She was a whore. Like a fucking whore. A whore. Jesus was around her all the time. And by the way, if you really read the Bible, she was his top disciple. Because she understood the secrets that he was trying to teach to the dudes who were bumbling idiots. God bless all the apostles and the disciples. They were great, but they were bumbling idiots. They were fucking idiots. Jesus knew it. He was so frustrated with them. The only ones he really connected with was like a couple, like one or two. But the rest of the 12 were just dudes. There's nothing wrong with that. You love your bros. And that's what they were to him. But Mary Magdalene, the hoe, the prostitute, was the one that he shared the secrets with. She was the one that he said, these are the secrets to the kingdom. She fucking knew because she's a female. She's channeling the spiritual energy. And so anyway, like when you're choosing, like let's say you're married to a whore right now. And by the way, a whore is not a woman that sleeps around necessarily. A whore is just a woman that doesn't respect a man's authority in the house. It's that simple. And so any woman that doesn't respect your authority as a man is a whore. You love them, you respect them, you appreciate them, you pay them, but you don't fucking let them have their hands in your empire. You don't. They'll destroy you. You know how they destroy you? They take your seed, because women are multipliers. They take your seed, and then they have a baby, and that baby becomes the one that fucking assassinates you. And so it's like, and you're going to live your whole life feeding that baby, giving that baby love and time and all that shit. You love that baby with all your soul because it's your baby. No, it's not. That motherfucker wants to slit your throat when you sleep. Why? Because it's the child of a whore. Now, if you impregnate a whore out in the world, you don't have to pay for that. She's an independent woman. She'll pay for it on her own. She'll get a soft, weak man to come and marry her, and then she'll get a Hosea. It's real. It's in the Bible. I know it sounds funny, but his name was Hosea, the prophet. Not Jesus, but God told him, "Hey, marry this whore, and then she's gonna sleep around on you, and then she's gonna have 12 kids by 12 different men, and then you're gonna have to pay for them and raise them." God was teaching him a lesson. So don't fucking marry a hoe. It's okay to support them financially for their services. I'm not saying break the law, but I'm saying in some countries it's legal. Not in the country where I'm making this video, so I'm not saying to do that here. But what I'm saying is, don't marry them. Love them, bless them with your money, bless them with your time. Don't fucking marry them. Don't have kids with them. Don't let a whore build your empire with you, because she will build it with sand. Jesus said, build your house on the rock. And a whore, why the profanity? Well, because it's just fucking English, and it's easy for me to talk that way. I mean, I'm very educated, and I can speak without profanity, but I like profanity. I like saying fucking. And by the way, people who use a lot of profanity authentically have very high IQs. I have a very high IQ. Anyway, I now like profanity. I fucking love it. But yeah, so for your sake, I will cut it down, Brenda Phillips, just for a couple minutes though. Never marry a woman that is a harlot, because harlots will destroy your empire. God uses harlots. You know, Jesus's great ancestress was a harlot. Many women in the Bible that were extremely important to the lineage of Jesus were harlots. They were whores, prostitutes. And it's so important. They're so important for society. The Bible reminds us of that over and over again, that harlots, whores, prostitutes are extremely important for society. But their position is not the position of woman, you know, a wife, empress, queen. You know, how many harlots in the Bible were queens other than Jezebel that God approved of? Not a single one. All right, profanity's coming back, Brenda. Love you. Not a single motherfucking one. God. I mean, God loves whores, obviously. The closest disciple to Jesus was Mary Magdalene. And I know she's not including the 12, but if you really read the Bible, read Corinthians and read Acts of the Apostles, Acts, you read Acts, it talks about the 120 disciples. Jesus had a lot of disciples. Oh my God, I'm at 40 minutes? Oh, wow. Okay, I'll cut off soon. I went off on a tangent here. Okay, I'm talking about harlots and everything. Anyway, why do black men abandon their families? Because they started marrying harlots instead of marrying women. And the harlotization of Maurian women that turned them into black women and turned Maurian men into black men and all that was the result of some policy changes that took place in the United States. And that was just, it's not white people oppressing the black man. It was just a policy change, and I think it was probably driven by communists who saw that, and I'm really talking real communists, that saw that, not fake communists, but real communists like some of the Black Panther Party people and that whatnot. They saw that there was a power struggle there, and they could, weasel their way in and win. So they just turned Maurian men into black men and Maurian women into black women by introducing whoredom into the community. So what is a whore? What is a harlot? It's a woman that doesn't need a man, that doesn't respect a man's authority. And those women are important for society. We need them. But you don't want them in your house. You don't want them building your empire with you, because that's not a woman that you can cherish. It's not a woman that you can like cherish and honor, because she doesn't want that. She's independent. She can take care of herself. She's got a girlfriend. She's got her betas that she uses. And, she doesn't need you. So if you're a manly man and you want a woman that you can cherish and love and who's going to respect you as a man and respect your authority, marry a woman. And that's how you heal this epidemic of black men leaving their children. And so that's what I have to say about that. God, this went on 41 minutes. I just went on and on. Sorry, Brenda, for the profanity. But, I fucking love it. Yeah. That's all I got to say about that. Sorry, guys, we'll cut this off because it's about time for me to I can go on forever. But if you have any other questions about that, I think the next video is going to be. God, I went all over the place on this one. I'll just put it out. God knows. Yeah, there's a lot of subject matters, a lot of different subjects that I covered there. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I need to stop because I'm going to keep going on and on. If you want to be there for, if you want to be there, that's all good. It's all good, David. If you want to be there for your kids and you identify yourself as black, first thing that you can do is marry a woman. And look, she may not come from the black community. If you really like Maurian-looking women, rich chocolate brown skin, curly woolly hair, Africa. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. Or fuck it, skip Africa. If you're not into African women, and I'm saying South African women, you like Nigeria, there's Cameroon, there's Ghana, there's there's so many African countries you could find wives in. Sudan. There's some gorgeous ones. I've seen some gorgeous ones. Some of my type of women are there. The Arab mix. I love the Arab mix. Other places you can go where you can find absolutely gorgeous chocolate brown women with the hair like your mom, your sister. South Pacific, so I'm talking places like Fiji, Vanuatu. Gorgeous women from Fiji. Fiji, Indonesia, which is Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, all the Melanesian islands, Micronesia, the Philippines. But that's gonna be hard because they're out in the sticks. But just and that's if you want Maurian-looking people. But if you're like okay with marrying anybody, just marry this. But make sure you're choosing a woman that's a woman. You don't want a whore running your life or your house, because the children of that whore will never be your kids, even if they have your genetics. They will disrespect you. So when you're lovingly saying, hey, this is what I'm concerned about, follow this path, or giving them wisdom and advice as a father, they're going to say, they're going to say, screw you. I'm not listening to you. I don't give a shit. They will literally say that to your face. And they will not respect your authority as a father, as a man. And all your work, all your time, all your love will be for nothing. And that's why black men abandon their families, because they marry whores And the whores train the children to hate them and disrespect their authority in the house. And so those families fall apart. And it's been a 3 or 4 generation process. It didn't happen overnight. It started in the 50s, and then slowly, people are where they are now. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Am I married, David? No, I filed for divorce a while ago. I got rid of that situation in my life. It was destroying me. Happier than I've ever been. Literally. No, I'm not married. Yeah. So, yeah, literally happier than I've ever been. Happier than I was before I was married, and happier now. Yeah. Oh God, happier than I was ever during that marriage. The happiest times I had during that marriage was with my children. Was when I was going to school with them, when I was, volunteering in their classrooms for years, when I was playing cello for them until they went to sleep every single night for years on end, every single night. Like it didn't matter when I got home from work, I would pull out the cello and play. Even if they were asleep, pull out the cello and play. Those are the best moments of that time. Hiking with them, loved it. Going to museums, going on adventures. I love that. I just love that. I love that. Those are the best parts of that marriage. Outside of that, it was just fighting, hell, anger, frustration, pain, sorrow. I cried more in that marriage than I never cried in my entire life. Yeah. So have I been married? Am I married? I was married. I'm not married at this time. And very happy so. And so yeah, I'm just getting myself right so that I can actually be the man that I want to be. So that I pick a woman, a wife, a woman that respects, loves, and appreciates me as much as I love, respect, and appreciate her. It's a two-way street. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Love you guys. Thanks for sticking around. Thank you, David. Makes sense. He's a jaded man. A jaded, broken man. No, I'm very happy. For now. And forever. Always and forever. All right. Love you guys. I'm out of here.